Good morning. Welcome to the July 1st, 2020 Punta Gorda City Council meeting. Let the record reflect that all City Council members and city officials are present or in the building. We will begin by standing for the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. And please join us if you're at home.
Heavenly Father, as we prepare to celebrate this country's 244th birthday, we pray that you heal our nation, you heal our state, you heal our communities. Father, let us remember the brave men and women who died in the military defending our country to keep us safe and free. We owe so much to them. We owe so much to you, Father. Father, we pray that you touch people's hearts, minds in this country to have them look to you for answers. Father, we also remember the 120,000 Americans that have died from the coronavirus, and we pray for their families that they are grieving. Let us remember our first responders. Let us remember our brave doctors and nurses and all healthcare workers, and we pray for their safety. Let us also remember the lost jobs and the struggling to make ends meet that many people have. We pray that you meet their needs, Lord. Let us remember the victims and the unrest and the violence that's going on in this country. Father, we pray that all would come to you. Father, I pray that you be close to each and every one of us, and we look to you for answers. And all people, God's people said, Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. We'll begin this morning by having our public comments. And Howard, I believe you have a number of comments to read into the record.
I'll read the comments in as to when they occur on the agenda.
Do you want me to put my timer on so that if it gets to 3 minutes?
Most of them should be okay. First is regarding the discussion of the sales tax projects and whether to include Burnt Star Road and Home Depot traffic signal as part of the project or not. Patty Silver. This statement caught my eye. Discussion regarding whether to add traffic signal at Burnt Star Road and Home Depot at an estimated cost of $1.1 million. I use this exit from Home Depot frequently and have never had to wait behind more than 2 cars, and I've never seen an accident there. Seems like a waste of funds. On another traffic-related note, why can't we have a flashing red, yellow, left turn signal northbound from Tamiami onto Akiasta? I sat there yesterday at a red left turn signal for what seemed like forever, while there were 0 cars coming from the southbound direction. I've seen other flashing left turn signals throughout the state, so I'm sure it's possible. Maybe it's an issue you can raise. It sure would have a lot of support. Same topic, John 4. In regards to 1% local option sales tax, discussion regarding whether to add traffic signal at Burnt Star Road and Home Depot at an estimated cost of $1.1 million, thereby necessitating adjustments to approved project lists to fit within project revenues. I am in favor of this option. I think it will improve on a potentially unsafe condition within Burnt Star Isles. Traffic leaves the shopping center and heads up Tripoli towards Monaco. A large part of those cars get to Monaco and turn right towards the intersection of Route 41 and Monaco. They roll right through that stop at Monaco and Tripoli. On a number of occasions, I have been approaching that intersection on my bike, and cars pass me just before the stop sign and cut me off. If the cars had an exit at Madrid, there would be less cars rolling that stop sign and posing a threat to pedestrians and bicyclists. Also, that intersection is a school bus stop. Same topic. This is from Gene Pawlowski. Now, this may be more than 3 minutes, so I'll try and do the best I can. When we look at the number and size of the entities and stakeholders involved in this venture, it is necessary to ascertain who owns or is responsible for which portions of this considerable project in order to solve them. The state of Florida is responsible for US 41 and the entire interchange with Burnt Store Road, Jones Loop Road, the CSX Railroad crossing, as well as the intersection with Madrid, and the coordination of the whole. The problems involved are due to the tightness and pinch points encountered, making signalization at Madrid and US 41 undesirable. So securing this alternative is improbable. Existing commercial vehicles have identified an unacceptable residential parallel alternative to be Tripoli to Monaco, where a turn signal and light are available. They have also tried Madrid to Monaco, also unacceptable. An identified alternative is the Burnt Store Road Home Depot exit, which is in need of signalization, but needs to be in concert with the US 41 Burnt Store Road signalization. It would redirect both commercial and personal vehicles and reduce the numerous traffic problems in the area. Burnt Store Road is solely owned by Charlotte County, as is the adjacent bridge at Alligator Creek, in cooperation with the state as an important hurricane evacuation route for Charlotte, Lee counties, and the city of Cape Coral. Speed reduction in this area is desirable. Burnt Store Marketplace and Home Depot fall in the province of the city of Punta Gorda, which has taken action to reduce commercial traffic on Tripoli and Madrid. The property owners have done minimal adjustments to the delivery paths, traffic patterns, and parking since design and build-out, even though they would be considerable benefactors to improvements. It is evident that each of the invested parties should share in the cost and implementation to reduce the hazards to the public. Gene goes on to talk about how Charlotte County, the city, and the property owners might share in a partnership to get the project completed. I'm going to read the rest of the record, or is that sufficient?
That's good.
We have no audio feed and it's not recording the meeting, so we need to take a break. Clerk has no recording of the meeting, so.
Oh. So you didn't hear anything I said?
We can see you.
Okay, so,
The clerk's audio is not recording. We have to get that part.
correct. Can the
resolved.
people at home hear us?
No.
Okay,
Nobody can hear?
They can see the YouTube feed, but
okay,
Mike's here working, but the clerk's not even getting the recording, the audio recording, which we have to have.
okay. All right, we are back, and then since the recording did pick up everything that our city manager reported, then we will pick up from where you left off, Howard.
Different topic. This is now the Ponce Inlet Project, Fred Court. Although I currently serve as chair of the PGI Canal Advisory Committee, the comments following are mine and not intended to speak for the committee or any of its members. Complaints from boaters about the Ponce Inlet Channel have come to Public Works, to members of the Canal Advisory Committee, and I am sure to some members of council. As Mr. Keeney told you in an earlier meeting, he has been receiving those complaints as far back as he can remember. In 2018, the proposal to widen and deepen Ponce Inlet appeared before the Canal Advisory Committee as part of the annual budget process. The project was unanimously supported. The committee again supported the project in 2019. This month, for the third time, the committee endorsed the need to move forward with the project. Concerns about Ponce Inlet have been of concern for much longer than that. In 1992, the city sponsored a study of erosion and shoaling in Ponce Inlet that was conducted by the University of Florida. Among other things, they recommended reopening the barge canal, which would reduce the factors which were contributed to erosion and shoaling. The same group restudied Ponce Inlet in 1996. The barge canal remained closed, in part due to permitting problems, and erosion factors were still observed. In both studies, they show cross-sections of the inlet. If you are expecting to see something like a nice 20-foot wide square bottom and uniformly sloping sides, you would be surprised. Couple that with the steady flow of sediment carried by tidal action, and it is easy to understand why that might be deep enough and wide enough this year may not be deep enough and wide enough next year. In 2012, a report, Regional Waterway Management System for Charlotte County, by the University of Florida was published. Ponce Inlet was one of 155 studied locations. They counted and classified the boats in PGI which would be likely to access the harbor through Ponce. They studied how many of these boats might be restricted by conditions. Restriction means that at mean low water, the boat draft is greater than some point in the channel. The study determined that there were almost 1,100 boats, other than kayaks and canoes and the like, in PGI that would possibly use Ponce Inlet. Of those, 111 were restricted to some degree. The boats included powerboats, trawlers, recreational fishing boats, and sailboats. By class, the average draft ranged from 2.3 feet to 4.4 feet, with a maximum draft of 7.5 feet. There are 325 sailboats in the count. I'm guessing the number of restricted boats has grown since 2012. As one member of council recently stated, those with bigger boats using Ponce Inlet have to plan very well to make sure they can get out for the day on the water. They also have to plan the timing of their getting back in and safely home. It's one thing to lightly graze a sandy bottom. It's a totally different matter to be stuck during the winter low water situations. Buckley's Pass is square cut to 6 feet deep and is 50 to 60 feet wide. It provides a uniform cross-section that should allow for safe navigations under most circumstances. But Buckley's Pass does nothing to solve the persistent concerns about Ponce Inlet. Shouldn't we be trying to provide something that comes closer to the Buckley's Pass standard for those who want to use Ponce Inlet? We are, after all, the harborside hometown and believe that supporting the boating way of life is a critical piece of our future. What is proposed is determining what's possible. But until we authorize an engineering study to come up with a solution, we are doing nothing to improve the situation. We know, even when we start things in motion, that engineering, permitting, and dredging will take many months until we see the result. Now is the time for council to act. Put the Ponce Inlet project back into the budget as the PGI CAC, which is the Canal Advisory Committee, recommended. Next topic, Pickleplex. This is from Anastasia Settle. Pickleplex is moving to slowly privatize its courts by requiring members to pay $200 per year fee for access to the courts, starting as early as August 2020. While the full details have not been shared with the public, and the prices and packages may change before being finalized, this information has been confirmed by Gloria Riley, Pickleplex Secretary-Treasurer. Riley confirmed in a Facebook comment that, of course, there will be a seasonal rate. We, Pickleplex Board, will give out the real full details when we have it worked out. This comment clearly confirms that Pickleplex is looking to limit the access of the courts by charging an access fee, despite the fact that their proposed profits would come from tournaments and leagues where players have the option to pay and participate or sit it out. This is a decision that should not be taken lightly and, quite frankly, should be opposed. According to data obtained from a Charlotte County Council meeting agenda, 61% of the funding cost for Pickleplex was requested to come from county contributions, $453,632. It is unclear whether this was approved, but if it was, Why would Charlotte County allow the Pickleplex organization to charge an access fee if the county funded over half of the project costs? No public budget for the funding for Pickleplex is available to the public. But Gloria Riley, the Pickleplex Secretary-Treasurer, stated in a Facebook post, the city gave money to name a court. They helped fund the sewer line, which we, Pickleplex, pay for every month. Therefore, regardless of whether Charlotte County helped fund Pickleplex or not, it is clear that the city of Punta Gorda donated and funded Pickleplex in the hopes that they would help with the economic and social life of the city of Punta Gorda. Thus, the question remains the same. Why would the city of Punta Gorda sit idly by as Pickleplex moves to charge for access to the courts and limit the access to the community? Furthermore, several city council members supported Pickleplex in the hopes that it would lessen the noise and tension surrounding the pickleball courts at Gilchrist Park. Councilmember Wines suggested closing 4 of the pickleball courts once Pickleplex opened, thus reducing play in Gilchrist Park by half. Adding the remaining courts could be switched with the tennis court location. However, moving the courts to another location might be preferable. Now that Pickleplex is open, the number of courts available at Gilchrist Park has been reduced, and most players choose Pickleplex over Gilchrist Park. However, this change will be temporary if Pickleplex decides to move forward with their plan of charging members an access fee of $200 per year. Many of the students at FSW, local high schoolers, and local community members will not be able to afford this fee, thus limiting the access of the courts to the community. This is also counterintuitive to the goals that FSW stated in their news article announcing the lease for the courts on October 12, 2018. FSW looks forward to becoming the home of the Pickleplex of Punta Gorda, and we are happy the FSW Charlotte campus is able to provide the space needed to bring Pickleplex to life. How am I doing time-wise?
It's kind of getting long, but
Is it over?
I didn't have the timer on, Howard.
It's probably, let me just read the last
Okay.
paragraph and then I urge the members of the Pickleplex Board, City Council, and FSW to review this matter with scrutiny. Consider not only the year-round local community members that would be impacted by this, but also the snowbirds. How would it be fair to ask the members of our community to pay $200 per year for access to a court when they are only in the state for a few months out of the year? These are community members that help boost the local economy just as much as year-round residents. It is clear that this move is a small step in a much larger plan to privatize the courts. When it comes to this access fee, just say no. Pickleplex, John 4. I support Pickleplex charging a membership fee. This is a nominal fee to support this facility without additional taxes. We should have a usage fee or annual permit for the boat ramps also. Same topic. Holly and Richard Kirchhofer. The current discussion of the intent to charge for Pickleplex memberships highlights how important it is to keep the pickleball courts in Gilchrist Park. We heard that if the Pickleplex has open courts for the occasional non-member players, the times will be during the hottest part of the day when no one in their right mind would play. Most people hide in the AC in the middle of the day. Having pickleball in Gilchrist provides multi-generational fun exercise when the kids visit without having to drive a distance and maintain a membership that we will seldom use. The Pickleplex is for competitive players. Whatever the decision is regarding the intent to charge for memberships, please continue to support keeping the pickleball courts in Gilchrist for us local residents. Same topic. This is from the Pickleplex Board. Gloria Riley sent it. The Pickleplex of Punta Gorda is a privately funded 501c3 that has a lease agreement with Florida Southwestern State College. All expenses to date have been funded by donations, tournaments, and court rentals, not tax dollars. The board of directors who volunteer their time are considering charging people to play at the courts. The board has been struggling with this need since the COVID-19 pandemic necessitated the canceling of 2 tournaments, as well as casting doubt on any future tournaments. The current courts are not free and clear. There is a debt of $240,000 which must be paid. The monthly operating expenses with accruals to pay the debt average approximately $7,200. The Pickleplex has been open since June 2019 and already has had a $3.5 million economic impact in Charlotte County. The board has hosted 2 charity tournaments. One was for the Charlotte High School Tarpon basketball team, and the other was for the Collegiate High School's Honor Society for their service project. We have also volunteered with the summer camp at South County Regional Park to provide pickleball instruction for the campers free of charge. The courts have been and will continue to be open for free for the students in our area. Each of the board members have signed and have lived up to the conflict of interest policy on file with the state of Florida. No member of the board receives any funding for their services rendered. Each board member averages 25 hours or more per week of donated time. Our family members cannot be hired or receive money for their services. They volunteer their time and knowledge as well. The proposed annual club membership fee would be $200 a year. That amount would be 55 cents per day or $3.85 per week. Snowbirds will be asked to pay a $150 fee for 7 months, and any occasional player would be charged a $5 drop-in fee. The courts will be open and free to the public every day from 12 p.m. noon till 5 p.m. with no drop-in fees unless there is a scheduled event. The board has been doing research on other comparable facilities. Vero Beach allows the local club to charge memberships and daily drop-in fees for players. The club shares the expenses for the maintenance of the courts with the city. Naples charges a membership fee to play at prime times, along with a drop-in fee for non-members. The new courts at Lake Kennedy and Cape Coral is planning on membership. Pickleplex was not constructed, nor is it maintained with tax funding, unlike other county pickleball facilities. All funds that have been received have been used to pay for the construction and business costs. The Pickleplex board would appreciate any help with funding this community activity from the city and Charlotte County. In summary, the Pickleplex board is proposing that those who wish to use these courts help pay for the operation and maintenance of the courts. We believe that is the true sentiment of the vast majority of players and citizens of our community. Same topic. Jonathan Ralph. I would like to ask the City of Punta Gorda to support pickleball in Punta Gorda, specifically Pickleplex and Gilchrist Park. Pickleplex brings in many players and visitors to Punta Gorda who boost the local economy, as did Gilchrist Park before you allowed it to fall into disrepair and shut half of it down, which was a poor, short-sighted decision. You should really get on board and support the fastest growing sport in the USA, like many of your competitor cities. See what Naples puts into its pickleball community, also Daytona Beach, to name a few. Please support pickleball locally. As a side note, I have contributed both physically with labor many times in the construction of Pickleplex, as well as financially, and support a fee structure on participants if government money is not forthcoming or inadequate. I am a full-time resident of Punta Gorda. Same topic, Nancy Morton. I am writing to object to such misinformation about the funding of the Pickleplex complex. The Gilchrist courts are in such disrepair, and with the acoustic fence keeping it unbearable to play there, we need to keep Pickleplex open, even if they have to charge a membership fee. If someone cannot pay $4 a week for exercise and friendship, they obviously cannot manage their money very well. Pickleplex should have city and county funding. The complex is superb, and we need to keep it in our city-county. Please find funding for this beautiful complex. Same topic, Kathy Hunt. The pickleball courts at Gilchrist are in need of repair. The courts are cracked, there are holes, and are dangerous. More people will be playing at Gilchrist when and if Pickleplex starts charging for play. Regardless of the decision made by Pickleplex, the courts are in need of repair. It seems like it is a liability for the city. The city gets sued when someone falls due to a crack in the sidewalk. Playing at your own risk is always assumed, but seems like the city has done things to make tennis play safer while making a decision to leave the pickleball courts in disrepair. It's a shame to have so much of our tax dollars renovating the park past tennis courts, only to leave the pickleball courts in disrepair. I would like to see the city repair the courts at Gilchrist to increase safety. Same topic. Sandra Sullivan. I am unable to attend the meeting tomorrow, so I am writing regarding an agenda item from the Pickleplex board. I am in support of Pickleplex taking any action they need to stay afloat during these difficult times. If the city of Punta Gorda could possibly find a way to provide funding to help the Pickleplex until they are able to have tournaments and rent the facility, which will again provide the Pickleplex with the revenue as was planned. No one could have predicted the turn of events that have occurred over the last few months. If that is not a viable solution, then I don't see how they have any choice but charge for play. We have been able to play there for free over the past year, and we are fortunate to have this fabulous facility in our beautiful city. I still have my fingers crossed that we get our courts back at Gilchrist as they were. Those, of course, are our free courts. If we can't keep Pickleplex open and we don't have Gilchrist Park to play, what a sad time it is for Punta Gorda. Pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the country, and I am constantly bragging about what we have in Punta Gorda. The beautiful courts that were at Gilchrist and the courts we have at the Pickleplex. Kudos for a little town. Same topic. Amy Decker. I understand fully that due to the current circumstances, there needs to be a membership fee to support the Pickleplex. Whomever chooses to play at this beautiful complex needs to support its upkeep, overhead, and growth. Business plans do change. There are not many things in life that are free, but we had a full free season of play at the Pickleplex, which should be considered a gift. Same topic. DJ Hartwig. I heard a few days ago that Pickleplex is planning to charge a membership fee. I can't believe they would be allowed to do that. They promoted the venue as free to the public, and I, along with many others, supported them financially and with some labor. They are also located on public grounds, as far as I understand. I'm not sure who grants approval for their request to charge admission for non-tournament players, but I urge you to consider the community that was led, or maybe misled, that this facility would be open and free to the public except for occasional tournaments. I'd like to further point out that when pickleball play at Gilchrist was challenged, it was stated by several council members that when Pickleplex opened, players would play there, taking the crowds away from Gilchrist. If Pickleplex ceases to be free, pressure will again be on Gilchrist. Please don't allow Pickleplex to go back on their promise that it would be free to the community. Same topic. Judy Palmer. I moved to Punta Gorda from Maryland last June, which, luckily, coincided with the opening of the Pickleplex. What a phenomenal venue. I had a chance to play pickleball to my heart's content, which was a win-win, along with the added benefit of meeting a lot of locals who have become close friends. Punta Gorda at its best. Most of us, if not all, are used to paying for the privilege of playing pickleball, unless we, literally, have a court in our own backyard. I never expected a free ride to play in Florida, but that's what I got for the past year. I often felt like I was cheating the system. I would drill at the Pickleplex in the afternoons, and often people would show up who were passing through town asking, "What do I have to do to play here?" When I said nothing, their jaws dropped. The board of directors of the Pickleplex have spent an inordinate amount of time and talents making the Plex what it is today. Thank yous are not enough. Tournaments, now non-existent, are not enough. If we want to keep a pristine facility that we can all enjoy, we must step up to the plate and pay to play. Let's break this down. $200 a year may sound like a lot of money, but it is broken down as follows. $200 a year, $16.67 a month, $3.85 a week, 55 cents a day. Please tell me what part of this is exorbitant. I am only too happy to pay my portion in keeping the Pickleplex alive. There is no free lunch. Someone has to pay the bills to operate such a phenomenal facility and to grow it. I'm not sure why the City Council is involved beyond contributing for a small portion of the overall cost. They should only have a voice if they are willing to step up and contribute their fair share, their percentage of the cost to build the facility, on an ongoing basis for upkeep expenses and maintenance. The city needs to recognize that the Plex, as it stands, generates tremendous revenue for the city and name recognition for Punta Gorda and Charlotte County. No one is going to come to a rundown facility. The Pickleplex, as it stands, is world class. Let's keep it that way. Same topic. Sandy Brandt. Your agenda for 7/1/2020 contains an item related to Pickleplex and their plan to charge a fee for play. Less than a year after opening. It appears charging for play must have been in their business plan if tournaments were not viable for any reason. We should have had knowledge of this with our mayor on their board of directors. If we did not already have conditions on the funds we provided our pickleball community of Pickleplex, there may not be much we can do about the way they use it. However, we can control our parks. Unless City Council is willing to put pickleball courts in the nature park or other aesthetic residential area of our city, I do not think they should be in Gilchrist Park either. Gilchrist is the true nature part of our city. Nothing can compare to what Mother Nature has given us in this waterfront park. Gilchrist Park should not have this type of activity disrupting the serenity of nature and the peacefulness it provides our residents. Gilchrist deserves to be just as peaceful and calming as the nature park. That is why our founding fathers set it aside for all residents to enjoy true nature. Charlotte County now provides numerous opportunities for pickleball play, in parks designed to accommodate large groups playing a loud activity. If someone does not want to pay the fee at Pickleplex, there are many other appropriate venues available. Same topic. My name is Brandon Skivronik. I am 19 years old, and I have found an incredible community in pickleball. When Pickleplex opened, I met a group of people that I would never have gotten the chance to interact with had it not been for the sport and Pickleplex. I've gotten to meet the people who run this facility and see firsthand how dedicated they are. I know that they will do whatever it takes to keep the Pickleplex open because they genuinely care about providing a welcoming space to play. The other week I was in Jacksonville for my pickleball coaching certification, and when I said that I was from Punta Gorda, multiple people came up to me to ask me about Pickleplex. They had seen pictures, heard about it, and wanted to know if it was as nice as the posts they had seen on Facebook. The city has become known for it. It would be devastating to see this facility close. I know that some may find the proposed membership pricing to be steep, but I find it may be necessary at this point. I hope the city makes the right decision and allows Pickleplex to make whatever decision they see fit to keep the courts open. going to change topics. This now deals with the item on the agenda regarding the COVID update, in which case we'll be bringing up masks. Pam and Dan Nelson. We heard the council is going to consider the use of mandatory face masks. We want to urge you to pass this. Since Florida began reopening, people have become very careless about social distancing and the use of face masks. They seem to think that since businesses have reopened, they don't need to be careful any longer. Each time I go to a grocery store, at least half the customers are not wearing a mask, nor trying to maintain the 6-foot distance rule. Our small city is filled with seniors, and we need to protect each other. Please push for this to pass. Stan Kapuczynski. I appreciate and understand its tenor. I am sure, this regarding masks again. I am sure you are, as I am, perplexed. The president defers responsibility to governors, who defer to local governments, who defer to governors, who are giving up deferring to the president. The CDC recommends and cannot mandate. I'm sorry that it has to be the entire county doing something before the town does, but that's politics, isn't it? With the concurrence of the same person, with the concurrence of coronavirus cases rocketing in Florida, along with the impressive number of susceptible old people in this town, I was saddened to hear the council backed off mandatory masks. You know as well as I that people will continue to scoff at wearing a mask, deny they'll get sick, and spread the virus. A friend suggested I watch the council meeting where masks were discussed to get a laugh at the comments. I plan to either laugh or marvel at stupidity. Your servant as always. Same topic, Doris Blair. I would like for you to include a discussion about residents being required to wear masks in all businesses in Punta Gorda. We are seeing a daily increase in the number of COVID-19 cases in Charlotte County and zip code 33950. It is not difficult to wear a mask, and the CDC has stated it will definitely decrease the transmission of the coronavirus. Our population is elderly, and we need everyone working together to defeat this virus. Wearing masks is the best way we can accomplish that. Thank you for all the work you have done for our city over the years. Same topic. Libby Schaefer. I am emailing you to urge City Council tomorrow to make the wearing of masks in Punta Gorda a mandate. While I know there are those who feel their rights are being infringed upon by such a mandate, I feel that my rights to be healthy and active in the town I love are being infringed upon by those who do not wear masks. At a time when our economy has been suffering terribly, we do need to open things up and help our local businesses get back on track. They, however, are at a tremendous disadvantage because they do not have the support nationally, state-wise, country-wise, or locally to require their patrons to wear masks. As a result, they are being put at risk, and many residents, including myself, are not out and about shopping, as we usually are. I urge you to look at other Florida cities and states who have made masks mandatory to see how doing so has drastically lowered the COVID-19 curve while also promoting people moving about and putting needed income into our local business coffers. Same topic, John Welsh. It is long past time to require all people to wear a mask in our city. Since the county commissioners and the governor have shirked their responsibilities, to the citizens of the state and county. It now falls on you to enact a rule requiring masks to be worn in our city. This is not a political issue. It is a health, indeed a life and death issue. We have laws that prevent people from firing guns in the air because the bullet can come back to earth and kill someone. In the same way, we need to protect our citizens from being accidentally infected or killed because someone does not want to wear a mask. Please step up and protect our citizens, even the ones not smart enough to understand the danger. Yes, it will take political courage. I have faith in each and every one of you. You will do the right thing. Same topic. Celeste Gwynn. Respectfully, we ask that you consider and approve mandating mask wearing in Punta Gorda. I think we largely have very responsible citizens in Punta Gorda, but with so much politicized information out there, it would be good to send a clear message to all citizens right now. We were impressed with the mayor of Sanibel, who just mandated masks to protect year-round residents. We have avoided walking downtown because we see too many people not social distancing and not wearing masks. Even in Publix, it is difficult to shop. Please mandate mask wearing in Punta Gorda for everyone's health. That's it.
I sent you one more just a little bit ago.
Please do something?
Hmm?
Was it the please do something one?
It's about masks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, didn't we have it on here that all this had to be received before 9 o'clock this morning?
I don't know when it was sent, but
9:30 is when I got it.
Yeah.
Okay. This is from Don Forlenzo. Same topic. Vice President Mike Pence is now finally saying to wear a mask. So did Mitch McConnell, Fox News' Steve Doocy, Sean Hannity. Forget the medical experts that have been saying it forever. Unfortunately, many still won't unless it becomes mandatory. How many more people have to get sick? How many more people have to die before something is done? I think that's it. Right?
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Then we have had all, is there anyone here that wishes to provide comments on any of our agenda items today? Okay, seeing none. The next item on the agenda is introduction of board and committee member nominees. Is there anyone here that wishes to nominate themselves or introduce themselves to the council if you are nominated for a board or committee member? Okay, seeing none, then we will adjourn as the city council and reconvene as the CRA. David, you can stay right where you were. That's why we have done this. Okay, are we all set? Good morning, CRA members. Welcome to the July 2020 meeting. And the first item on our agenda, I do want to say before we get started, actually, that item E, which would be 2E on the agenda, has been pulled. Centennial Bridge banners. Brian Gleason from the county could not be here with us. It's their agenda items, so they've asked to put it on a future agenda. So that should be an interesting discussion. It's been a long time since I've been involved in a bridge banner discussion, probably, golly, 14 years maybe, when we had the bridge banners. You remember those? And Lynn probably does. The bridge banners. I don't think Jaha or Debbie.
it was a long time ago.
Or John, no? Oh, yeah, that was quite the thing, so. Okay, well, we'll get started with our presentation. I'll turn it over to Howard Koenig.
Howard Junick, CRA Director. This is a monthly report, municipal marina activity. Pretty similar to previous months. Again, it's pretty well full.
But you did know that you did make a mention that the data is as of the 24th of the month, and it's not the complete month of June.
Right.
Because of the timing of this meeting.
Right. So the pump out vessel activity, miles traveled seems very similar, and obviously the majority of the pump outs are for Florida vessels. Riverwalk Area 2, the contractor is doing quite well. Of course, the lack of rain has helped. It's not helped as far as our watershed, but it's helped for this activity. They're paving away. They're doing the work on the side of the pavement as well. And I mean, if it continues, they'll be done ahead of time. But I don't want to say that because it could start raining. But it's moving along very well. Very good contract. Veterans Park Phase 2. So the city art staff and volunteers were completing plans and working with the volunteer group to schedule the memorial brick catalog.
Can you explain what additional hardscape is being planned, or is that the bricks themselves?
Our urban design manager can explain it.
Awesome.
Good morning. For the record, Joan LeBeau, Urban Design. We've been meeting with General Carr, and he has a series of people who want to donate to the placement of additional trash receptacles, as well as additional benches for people to sit and meditate in. So those are the additional hardscape.
Great, thank you.
But no additional cost to us, right?
At this time, not that I am aware of, no.
Sometimes they ask for staff to help them, like with
So in-kind contributions,
contributions, but
which we're used to doing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Procurement has the solicitation packages. Our staff is, urban design staff is looking at it, and so hopefully we can get that out on the street very soon. And the gardeners are back at East Virginia. They were away for a little while, but they're back and replanting. So that's a great project. It's done well. With the, we have advertised the former Pedelec bike shop place. We have a big sign out there. All of the businesses, other businesses now are back and doing well. Well, I would say doing well. They're back in business. The tattoo place had to be closed for about a month more than the others that recently opened. If they have trouble paying rent, we've given them till the end of December to get caught up after we did a couple months of rent abatement. But at least they're there. Rent is being paid. And I talked to you about FGCU, but we have an update on FGCU.
Oh, all right. Just want to share with you all that due to the COVID-19, they decided to offer virtual classes. And so there's actually a filming area at the campus here, and they've been able to expand the courses to the whole region. So it's an additional revenue source that really hadn't been contemplated before. And so from that, I have confidence that we have a long-term relationship with them, because the numbers are working that with the in-person classes that had been diminished because of this, but they are able to make revenues off of this, and they're very, very popular, and they have classes of 200 people plus now. So it's looking pretty good.
Oh, excellent.
Great.
That's very good news.
Yes.
Wow.
That was the one I was worried about.
Yeah, we were concerned about them, and because they've all been in person, but you're saying they have a filming
Yes,
facility
they have a
here?
little box, that you can sit and teach your class.
Okay. Very good.
One of the very few benefits of the virus.
Yes.
Well, there's been a lot of, innovations that have occurred because of this, so. All right. Can you comment also, Howard, that we have an empty spot, but that how your process and how previously the city has filled that, because we don't have an agent
Yeah,
anymore, so it's just to let people know that, this is a typical process and how you handle that.
Yeah, the spot where the former Pedelec place is open, advertised. We have advertised it for rent. All they need to do is call our office, and we can arrange for them to look at it with Public Works folks, and we can come up with a rental contract. Some of the others that have recently moved in, we've done that same thing. So it's open for business. It's available for rent. So call our office, and hopefully we can get it filled.
Thank you. Anything else?
Is that it? That's it.
Okay. Any questions for Howard? Comments? All right, then we'll move on to the next item on the agenda is approval of minutes.
Move approval of the minutes from our regular meeting of June the 3rd.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the minutes from our meeting of June the 3rd, 2020. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Now we'll have the FY 2021 budget status update for the CRA.
Good morning, Kristen Simeone, Finance Director, to go over the CRA budget, sitting in the new spot. So let me just get this going. Sorry. As you know, for our CRA fund, we have 3 divisions. So we're going to start with our debt service division. This division is made up of our TIF revenue, our tax increment financing, which comes from the county and the city, from the ad valorem. We are allowed to take anything over the base amount for that particular revenue. The district was extended until December 2030, and debt service was restructured to match those revenues with the debt service. And as you know, we recently refinanced, saving some interest expense and maybe being able to pay this off early in the future. But again, that's for the future. We will continue to accrue the funds. They can only be used for the debt service. So originally, when we put this together, all we had was our June number. So at the time, the June percentage increase was showing a 6.47%. Yesterday, we did receive our July 1 valuation. For the CRA district, that's 8.87%. Increase in taxable value. We kept the millage rate for the county currently at the same rate as they're still going through their discussions. The millage rate for the city, we estimated the June 1 rollback rate, which was 3.3429. We will be discussing the rollback rate again during the general fund discussion, which as of July 1 would be 3.3469. The revenue for the adopted budget will be determined by the July taxable values and then by the final September adopted millage rates. So they can go up. And our expenditures are just the debt service. So we do show you just a little history of the taxable value increment and where it's been and where it's at right now. So you can see that we never have gone fully back up to the 2007 rate, but it has been increasing over the last few years. History of the TIF revenue, again, kind of shows we have gone and increased our TIF revenue. Again, that's based on millage rates. So as millage rates have changed, even though the taxable value may not have gotten fully up there, we've gotten back to our 2007 revenues, a little above. Again, here's our proposed revenues for a 5-year look and the reserves that would be built. So again, these tax increments for proposed 2021 will be slightly different based on final millage rate.
I do have a question, if you can just comment on this, because residents have asked me, when you see the reserves are substantial and increasing, when do you project potentially that we would pay off the debt?
Currently, we would think maybe at least 2, possibly 3 years early, based on this pro forma. Again, the reason we don't want to do it anytime soon is during the last economic downturn, we had seen such a drop in the valuations. And if that should occur, we want to be able to still make our debt service payments.
Good, thank you.
Okay. So now we're going to go on to the Herald Court Operations Division, which is our Herald Court Center, which includes our lease revenues, includes maintaining the parking structure, common areas, and our revenue sources are the leases and common area maintenance fees for this fund. So our fiscal year 21 and through 25, we do make an assumption that generally one unit may be vacant at any time during any given year, and that's just because as a lease comes up, it might be vacant while we're trying to get a new tenant in. We just never know. So to be on the conservative side, we do budget one vacant unit. Operating expenditures are per request for fiscal year 21, and through 22 through 2025, we estimate a 3% increase in operating expenditures, except insurance, which is the 5%. We do have $45,000 annual maintenance funded by CRA reserves through fiscal year 2025, which is in the next division we'll talk about, but we just wanted to let you know, because as of fiscal year 2026, we would move that to the operations division. Beginning reserves projection for fiscal year 2021, again, just wanted to, is reduced a little bit from prior projections because we had the 2 months of abatement, of rent abatement this year. So here's our operations division pro forma, again showing estimated revenues and estimated expenditures. And again, we have our beginning and ending reserves, which include for the tax portions, R&R, and for operations. Going on to our final division, this is considered our just normal Herald, not just CRA operations division. This division is for the operation and maintenance of improvements provided by the CRA district. We do have capital renewal or replacements relating to existing CRA improvements. And the revenue sources come from the CRA land leases, Trayview Woods loan repayment, and interest income.
Kristen, can you please tell everybody what the Trayview Woods loan repayment is all about?
Yes, so there's 3 lots that were purchased by the Trayview Woods and through the city, and we currently have, they have a long-term lease, and they've been paying it back over the years.
So are they saying that they're going to pay it off? When you say loan repayment,
It's loan. So they've been paying it off like just like any other loan. It will eventually be paid off. It's scheduled, I think, through I forget which year.
But they're not doing it all at once, is my question.
No.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
I did want to bring up 2 things related to fiscal year 2020, even though just because it affects how the beginning balance looks for fiscal year 2021. So as you know, we've been talking about the fountain area and playground area for at Lashley Park. So as we talked about in the last council meeting for that project, we moved the funding to fiscal year 2021 to 2020 from fiscal year 2021 for the additional estimated project costs. So $275,000 would be an anticipated mid-year project, mid-year adjustment towards the fountain and playground renewal and replacement. That adds to the $50,000 already budgeted from general funding. And then another topic that's coming up shortly is related to the replacement of the wayfinding signage. We currently put in the projection the lower number, the $95,900. So if that is approved, it's already included. If not, it would just add to the reserves. Or if you choose a different option, that is higher, we would just use additional reserves for that. Going on to the other expenditures for fiscal year 2021 and our assumptions, we have $60,000 annually for the fountain maintenance, $40,000 annually from fiscal year 2022 through 2025 to again start accumulating that money for renewal and replacements for Lashley Park and Marina facilities. And we do have $45,000 annually that we set aside for the Herald Court Center facilities. This division can sustain operations at this level through fiscal year 2025. And ongoing land leases can sustain Lashley Park amenities maintenance after fiscal year 2025. And then here is the pro forma, again showing where we're at. Any questions on the CRA?
Questions?
I do have a question for Howard. I understand that there was a minor incident at the Lashley Park boat ramp with regard to some kind of a divot. Has that been repaired?
Howard Koenig, CRA Director. More than a divot, it was a pothole.
Yeah, I was trying to be nice.
Where's Rick? Have we fixed it yet? Have we fixed it yet? Yeah, it's fixed.
Okay.
It was a good sized pothole.
So somebody bottomed out, is that what happened? Because it sounded like it was pretty serious.
For the record, Rick Keeney, Director of Public Works. Yes, it was a pretty large pothole, and we filled it with asphalt. And then after the 4th of July, we're going to schedule there's a section, we're going to go ahead and pour it all in concrete. The water deteriorates the asphalt in that area, so we think it best to pour concrete in there. So that'll happen after the 4th.
Okay, thank you.
So my question is, how did that big of a pothole, how did it get that way that quickly?
Somebody bottomed out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure. That's the area that's maintained by Marina Management,
Okay.
Dusty and folks. And when we heard about it, we went and gave them a hand, and we filled it with the asphalt.
Okay. Any other questions for Kristen or Howard relative to the budget item?
When Kristen said retiring the debt 2 to 3 years early, is that using the figure 2030? Or is there some other year? Howard said yes, so that's it, Kristen?
Sorry, Kristen Simeon again. So the current debt is scheduled to be paid by fiscal year 2028. So when we say paid off early, we would actually be able to pay it off maybe in 2026.
I like that.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
of course, once we pay it off, remember the CRA will sunset. So the Herald Court Center will become an enterprise fund at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I'll be out of a job.
And you'll stop getting paid that enormous amount of money.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you very much, Kristen. We appreciate that. I don't think you're looking for us to vote on anything today. That'll come next week. So, all right, then let's move on to the wayfinding signage project update.
Good morning. For the record, John LeBeau. Mitchell Austin has zoomed in for the meeting, and he will be giving the update. I thought I'd get to play Mitchell today, but he's going to zoom in.
Okay.
There you go, Mitchell.
All right, thank you very much. Good morning. For the record, Mitchell Austin, Urban Design. Here today to provide updated information on the proposed wayfindage, signing, rebranding, and messaging project. So the proposed project is to rebrand 21 existing signs in the downtown area with new verbiage, icons, replacement of existing damaged or missing signs, and to add 3 additional sign locations. All of the information on those signs was preliminarily discussed at several CRA meetings last year. And again, all of that information as far as where we're directing destinations that we're directing people towards are preliminary in nature because all of the messaging has to be reviewed by FDOT through the permitting process. FDOT permitting is required because all sign locations, with the exception of 2, are located on FDOT maintained right-of-ways, US 41 and US 17 specifically. The engineering design also has to be reviewed by FDOT as well as the actual messages, as I stated. So after we got the initial messaging approved, we went to FDOT staff to discuss with them what the city intended upon doing. They then went out and did a field review. This actually occurred in March, right before the current state of emergency. And they analyzed all the existing system, and they found some issues. First, they found 2 of the existing signs were actually missing sign faces, so they could not fully evaluate those signs because they were damaged. They also found 3 additional existing signs that were actually too close to the vehicular travel lanes and did not meet the FDOT location standards for those signs. And then they also noted that our proposal was for 3 new signs within the right-of-ways they maintain. FDOT had some additional comments that they provided to staff. They said that this would need to meet the retroreflectivity. From that, I believe or inferred that the existing signs were questionable as to whether or not they met those standards, which have changed since these signs were installed. They also noted that the sign messages need to be engineered specifically for the text font and size and symbol usage, making sure that all of those are compliant with their standards, as well as needing a structural review and approval for all existing and proposed signs. This is noted for 2 reasons, that the main one being that the existing proposal proposes to change or modify those sign panels, so may change the wind loading and other structural dynamics on the sign. So just to give you a brief bit of Sign Anatomy 101 here this morning, the existing signs have a logo token. It's a double-sided feature that is circular. We also have a side panel, which denotes the neighborhood, and then the structural post, which holds the whole operation up. And then we have the face panel. This is really the meat and potatoes of the sign. This is where the messaging is, directing residents and visitors as to where those destinations are within the downtown area. So there are really 2 options for these signs, and we wanted to present both of those because they have their pluses and minuses. So the first one is a total sign replacement. This is to replace all existing 21 signs with brand new fixtures and new structural posts, the double-sided logo, the side panel, the face panel, everything. And this is a breakdown of the proposed budget. Currently, we have $30,000 allocated to this project. In 2019, we received a cost estimate of approximately $50,000 from an engineering firm for full engineering and permitting for this project. And then we estimate that the 21 signs will cost approximately $5,000 a piece, with contingency, because there's some unknowns at this point in terms of what we're going to need to do as structure and manufacturing costs for these signs. So the subtotal there is $70,750, which would require additional funding to complete the project of $140,750. more cost-effective option, which does reduce some of the branding, but again is primarily more cost-effective, is to replace only the sign panel. So from the existing old signs, we would remove the logo and the sign panel, and we would also remove the face panel. When we went to replace, we would only replace that face panel on those 13 existing signs that are compliant as they exist in the environment now. In order to complete the project, we will need to procure 2 brand new signs for those signs that have missing structural components, and then 3 new sign locations, and then we will need to replace those existing signs that have conflicts with their location. So in this scenario, again, we have the $30,000 that's already allocated to this project. The engineering cost estimate and permitting remains the same. That may be adjusted, but we doubt it based on the information that we have now, because they need full engineering drawings in terms of locating them on the earth for each one of the existing sign locations and each sign face panel. So for the engineer, they have to do 21 separate plan sheets for this project, whether it's a replacement or just modification of the existing. In terms of manufacturing and installation, again, we have a total of 8 new signs for sure that we know we need. So those costs, again, we're estimating approximately $5,000, and then 13 face panel replacements and the demolition, as it were, removing the existing sign face panels and logos and side panels of $2,000 each. Add in the contingency, and that gives us an estimated subtotal of $125,900, which leaves the project needing additional funding of $95,900. So to sum that up in one slide here, we have the total replacement option at $140,750 plus the existing $30,000 allocated. And then the only replacing sign panel for those existing signs that are compliant in location of $95,900, again, plus the $30,000 that's already allocated to this project. And I am, of course, available for questions.
Okay, questions, Lynn?
Mitchell, just to be clear, when you're saying only sign panel replacement, are we talking that FDOT is now going to allow us to reskin some of these signs that we already have? Is that what that means?
So we will look at the possibility of putting a new skin over those existing panels. But due to the material that was used initially, that may or may not be an option. We will not know until we get into the engineering portion of this. So that's where this the estimated costs of $2,000 per sign, that may be reduced by virtue of just putting a new covering over the existing panel instead of completely replacing that panel. But the cost of the actual panel itself may be marginal in terms of the total project cost.
So if we are allowed to reskin versus replace, how will that affect this $95,000 number?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch.
If they allow us to reskin the signs that we currently have that are in compliance, rather than replace those signs, how will that affect these budget numbers?
Again, as far as if we're not replacing the actual sign face panel and we're just putting a new sticker over it, that would be essentially the cost of the panel itself.
So that's what you mean by sign panel replacement?
Yeah, so I'm not sure what that marginal cost is, but it's not a significant portion of that $2,000. Most of that's labor to be out there and physically remove stuff from the sign and then reapply.
I'm just trying to be clear on what this all means, because at one point, we thought that we were going to be allowed to reskin the signs rather than replace them, and then there was a discussion that maybe that wasn't going to happen, but it now appears that maybe it is going to happen on some of the signs, not all of them. Is that correct?
Correct. 13 of the signs need to be evaluated through the engineering design process to see if we have the option of just applying a new retroreflective message face to them. But the sign panel itself still has to be removed for that process to occur, so the cost is really only the material cost of that sign panel.
Okay.
Not,
That answered my question. Thank you.
yeah, not a tremendous cost savings. It's just the cost of aluminum or plastic or whatever material that sign panel ends up being made out of from a performance standpoint.
Well, anything we can do to keep the costs in line would be helpful in this project. This project has taken on a new life of its own.
Definitely look towards cost savings in any way that we can through the design process, as well as through the procurement process for the actual project.
Okay, thank you.
Other opinions? Well, Mitchell, I have a question for you. In looking at the contrasting the options, I don't know that side panel that says we're downtown really makes a difference.
It doesn't.
And I know that the nice little circular logo piece, we'll be missing the logo, but in redoing the sign panel faces, can we put the logo on there? So instead of having it sticking out as a separate piece item that was going to cost us more money, can we just include the logo, city's logo, somehow, somewhere, when we redo those sign faces?
We can certainly look at that option if that's of prime importance. We can look and see if there's a way to do that in a cost-effective manner, and if it does increase the projected project costs, we would obviously come back to you with that information before we made the final decision.
Well, it seemed like if we're going to print it anyway, why would it increase the cost? I don't understand that, but Debbie?
I think what we have to remember is that as we went through these signs, one of our prime problems was that there were signs we didn't have enough room for everything we wanted to say.
Right.
And if we start taking up the room with our logo, what's more important, that we tell them the Military Heritage Museum is this way or that our logo is there?
No, I understand.
And I personally think that just the sign with the side panel looks cheap. It looks unfinished. And I think the logo thing at the top, which they didn't price out separately for us, kind of finishes the sign. I agree with you. We don't need the downtown, the historic district, the whatever. But I would really like to see the logo at the top, like where hibiscuses have always been.
Well, and that's why I asked if there was, in looking at the design, there may be a way to put the logo where it's not really going to take up space. I don't know. It's just part of the process of looking at that.
Charlie?
I don't think we even need.
No, I agree with, I remember the conversation well about trying, about a space limiting factor and so forth. So, yes, it might be a moot question, really.
Right.
And didn't we also say we didn't want the words historic district on any of the signs because it's implied that it's in the historic district?
Right.
As I saw a couple of those sample pictures that you had in there that had historic district on it. I guess that was probably a current sign.
Well, and I think to the point of some of our discussion, we want to make sure we leave room for future sites that we might want to point out and add to this, as opposed to having the signs all full. So are you suggesting, Debbie, that you would like to see a separate quote for just what would it cost to add that logo back in?
Yeah, I really would. I think that finishes the signs, and it's in keeping with the rest of our, we were trying to do a rebranding, and that's the whole purpose of this. And if we don't rebrand with our logo, we're not rebranding. But I'm really concerned.
And that's why I asked for the brand to take a look at that, because it's important. This is a branding project.
time we spent on the words because the signs were full. I don't know how something has to go if you put a great big,
Right.
okay.
I hear you.
John?
For the
Trying to
record,
talk.
Joan LeBeau, Urban Design Manager. We could also look, Mitchell, I believe we can look and see about placing the logo on the back of the panels.
Correct.
So-
The back panel just has a graphic image on it because, of course, these signs are primarily on one-way streets.
That'd be,
So there's a whole chunk of real estate there that we're not talking about because we're just talking about the message and the primary, vehicular directional right now. But that backside, FDOT says they basically have very little interest in what we put back there as long as it's not text intended to be read by a motorist that they might confuse themselves and drive the wrong way down the road.
I
Bill?
put on the backside, the motorist is not going to see it.
Yeah.
Right.
We're talking about a rectangle sign. There's nothing to say we can't attach the logo to the top of that sign. I was making instead of a rectangle, would have a bubble on top with the logo on it. That way the sign still can read all that we need to read. I mean,
Now we need all new signs
I'm just saying we
as
can
the
look
sign
at this.
faces.
I mean, we're going to spend the money. I mean, Debbie's right. I want to see that logo. It's a great city, so
Right.
let's look at it.
Uh-huh.
I think we should just stay on track. I mean, the purpose of this is wayfinding and beautifying the city. I think if we start carving out stuff to save a little bit of money, we lose the whole intent about why we're spending money in the first place. So I think we should maintain the logo and the beauty of it. I think that needs to be primary.
Okay,
I agree.
so what option are you looking at?
The normal one, the one that we
The normal one.
discussed.
So what
Be
is,
approved.
one that's not called normal, so you have to tell me.
Well, a replacement. I say normal because we had gone over this so long and we kind of come to a conclusion. And so I think cutting it down would only harm the whole intent behind it.
Well, for $45,000, I don't see the need. I think we've already spent a ton of money on this project, and we need to get it done once and for all, but let's do it with discretion and using our funds, because it's taken on a whole life of its own that it shouldn't have. I don't think we need that.
I'd agree with that.
So are you saying
The
option,
low-
the option 95,000, but also see if we can find what is the cost for the logo?
Yeah,
That's basically
probably.
what we're saying is we're just trying to basically break up the 140 into two numbers so we can still pay 140.
Well, that's not what I'm hearing. I'm hearing, I'm supporting the 95,900 option, but seeing how we could get the logo, because branding is really important. So what is that cost for that piece, or is there another way to achieve that? And I think, that's something Mitchell can look into and come back to us with that, but at least.
Well, I'm looking at all of these renderings of what the signs are going to look like, and why couldn't we just put the logo at the bottom right corner? I don't see any that have a full list of things across the bottom of the sign, and maybe we could put the logo in the bottom right corner so it's incorporated into the design at least somehow, and it's there. I don't see any one sign in all of these that has that corner filled. So that might be the simple solution, and just do it in form of a
And that's what I was
sticker.
suggesting, is it someplace to put it.
Yeah.
So I think that's something Mitchell can look at and come back and say, yeah, we came up with a solution, FDOT likes that, and it's not going to cost more money.
Well, that way it's all incorporated into the rectangle and nothing else is hanging out the sides.
Right. But I would also like, does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, it does, as
Okay.
long as the space is there and it,
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at all of them, and there are.
Okay. Now, the other thing I would, right now, I'm not sure what we call this thing that's on the back of these signs. It just kind of looks like it's kind of like paint that somebody splattered on the back of I know it's supposed to be something, but it
The
really.
hibiscus.
Well, it's supposed to look like hibiscus, but it looks like paint got splattered to me. So I would, it is, as you point out, Mitchell, it's valuable real estate that we could use for some purpose. So I'm not sure what we want back there, but maybe it is a bigger picture of our logo.
My only concern, again, it does seem to make sense, the space is there, but is that going to constrict the logo so that it really loses? That looks as though it's much smaller than what the original disc was on top of the signage. So the question is just what the dimension would be to fit in that lower right-hand corner, and if it's restricted enough that we just lose the impact of what's on the logo.
John?
Just looked at it,
If I may,
Yes?
if I may, I believe that it would be, in the actual design process, we can look at some options and we can build that into the design contract so that we can look at some options and bring those back with some cost estimates, because there may be some pluses and minuses to doing this various ways, from graphic design, getting the message out there, and meeting the FDT standards, and also making the structure of those existing structural poles work. So there's a lot of moving pieces there that in the design process, I think we'll have a clearer picture of the options and their costs.
Okay.
Good.
So are you looking for a vote, or are you looking for direction?
I believe, and maybe Jen can pick me up on this, we're looking for direction, but we may need a vote on allocation. Is that correct, Kristen?
Yes, Kristen from Finance. We would need at least an appropriation, maybe for the minimum amount, so that they can get moving on the project.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the only sign panel replacement option and appropriate funds in the amount of $95,900 to get this moving.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's been a motion and multiple seconds for the only sign panel replacement option to appropriate the funds. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The motion carries unanimously.
I just want to point out there are two typos on these renderings on slide number 13 and slide number 18.
So noted, thank you.
So we will come back to you with, as we go start the design and come up with some options, we're still going to have to come back to you before we order anything.
Okay,
All right.
thank you. I think it's not on here, but we typically have on our agenda time for commissioner comments. So, Charlie?
None?
Okay, Bill?
I do. I don't know what's appropriate. First, Commissioner, Councilman, congratulations on being reelected. If we have the authority, I know the city council is going to talk about face masks, I think, today. But if you're not going to mandate for the citizens, can the CRA mandate that the employees of the businesses within the CRA wear a face mask? I'm surprised that the number of businesses in the CRA, their employees are not wearing face masks, and that really surprises me. And also, to bring us up to date, yesterday I was in Publix, and it was at lunchtime, and there was a whole bunch of people around the counter where they make the sandwiches. 3 of the employees were from the city, 3 of the 4 of them were from the county, and the rest were various businesses. None of them were wearing masks. And I just think that we need to say that to our employees. At least the employees need to be wearing masks as well. But I'd like to see if that's possible. Can we mandate to the businesses, and then I would hope that once you reconvene as a city council, that you do the same thing for the rest of the businesses within the city of Punta Gorda. Can that be done?
David?
Yeah, I do not believe that the CRA has any regulatory authority, but the CRA can certainly make a recommendation to the city council as to how they wish to proceed on the mask issue.
Then I make that recommendation.
Wait, I have a question first. So if we vote on this as a CRA to make a recommendation to ourselves, that doesn't seem quite according to the books.
Well, you would be sitting, currently you're sitting as the CRA. you would not be bound to accept the recommendation of the CRA when sitting as the city council.
Yeah, technicalities here.
Gollum.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay, thank you.
I am smiling, but that is the correct legal analysis.
Welcome to Comedy
I
Clubhouse.
yeah. Okay. I'll take that, I guess we'll take that under advisement and we'll move along here and we'll see what, John? Do you have any comments
Okay,
today?
did he make a motion to do this?
No.
Okay.
It's not a motion, you just made a comment.
Yeah, I said move that we do that.
Are you moving that we
No,
do?
no, and I'm just saying that.
You can't move because it was not an agenda item.
Right, correct.
I support Bill's comment
Okay.
to wear face masks by businesses as well as, I'd add to that, all people going into businesses.
Okay.
Are we going to do this now?
No, I'm not really asking. This is commissioner comments time. Bill made his comments. You don't have to say you wish to support anything. You can just say, I'll defer to the discussion on the council agenda. And Bill's comments have been read into the record. So.
My commissioner comment is I really wish we could get going on the fountain. I hear so many complaints.
On the interactive fountain?
Yeah, getting that going, as opposed to just procedural stuff. People are ready for us to do that in the playground.
Okay. So Joan, do you know of any way that we can?
Oh, no, I don't expect them to expedite it just for me. I'm just telling you that I am hearing that.
We have sent the bid packet, our portion of it down to procurement, and it is getting ready to be put out for bid.
Yeah.
So it is moving forward.
Okay, so I can at least put that on my newsletter.
Yeah.
For the record, Joan LeBeau, Urban Design.
What kind of time frame for the bid to be going out and reviewed?
Pardon?
What is the timeline?
It's ready to go out. It was right now being reviewed by the departments, and I know that we finished ours. I believe Public Works finished theirs, so procurement should be getting it set, and I'll find that out for you and let you know, for sure.
Okay, and I know it's usually, once it's issued, it's 30 days.
Right.
We can't speed that up, huh?
Well, the fountain is operational.
Right.
The
Yeah.
interactive fountain
I
is
know.
being used. Okay.
But the playground isn't, and people, they heard Bill talk about this wonderful thing that, we were going to get. They wanted.
It's all your fault, Bill.
See what you got us into, Bill? And you're a new CRA member, too. Gosh.
I have nothing. Let's keep it moving.
Okay. Nothing? Okay, great. Well, thank you all. I appreciate it. The CRA meeting is adjourned, and we will reconvene as the city council. Do we need to take a 5-minute break?
Please.
Okay, let's take 5. Wow. The city council is back in session, and we will get on with our agenda. We have a lot to discuss today, so we're going to be here a while. I know I didn't bring my backpack or my sleeping bag, but okay. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing. I'll turn this over to our city attorney to introduce the public hearing.
Yes, this is GA-10-2020, the first reading of an ordinance, which I'll read by title only. An ordinance of the City of Punta Gorda amending the City of Punta Gorda Police Officers Retirement System, restated pursuant to Ordinance 1644-10, amending Section 30 Supplemental Benefit Component for Special Benefits, Chapter 185 Share Accounts, providing for severability of provisions, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. And here today is Scott Christensen, who is the attorney that prepared the ordinance to answer any questions that you may have.
Good morning. Would you like to make a comment about this?
Well, that's kind of up to y'all. Hopefully you have in your package a copy of the ordinance that we did, a copy of the letter that I used to send to Mr. Koenig so that you could have an idea of what we're doing and why we're doing it. and then also a letter from the actuary, which is probably the most important factor, that there's no cost associated with the adoption of this ordinance. And a lot of times that gets me about 90% along the way when I provide you with a letter that says there's no cost. But obviously, the letter, I tried to explain to you what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Well, if you could comment just for the people that, I know we're having technical difficulties right now, but the meeting is being recorded, so somehow if it does get matched up, the people that are watching could hear your explanation. Just a quick verbal explanation would be helpful to them.
Okay, I'll try to be as brief as I can. Essentially what we're doing, there is already a provision in the plan, which you can see in the ordinance. There's already a provision in the plan which basically provides for this, what we call a share plan. But what it says is that ultimately we have the plan, but if we ever get any money into it, we will allocate that money in a manner to be agreed upon. Okay? You can see that language has been stricken, and we're adding a whole bunch of new language. And that new language is essentially the manner that we're proposing to allocate the money that we get. Just to remind everybody, essentially, the pension plan gets money from the state. It basically is a tax on casualty insurance within the city that's collected at the state, and that tax gets sent back to the city in the form of a check every year. Okay, we get it typically in August. And that money is now subject to, the use of that money is subject to negotiations between the union and the city as to how that money is going to be used. The way it's been negotiated is the lion's share of the money is used to offset the city's required funding to the plan. Okay? But a small portion of it, from time to time, would be available and be allocated to the share plan. Well, we found out last year that a small portion of that money was available to go into the share plan in order to be allocated to the members. And just to remind you what a share plan is, essentially, we have a defined benefit plan. So everybody knows that, right? When a police officer retires, he gets a monthly check. Well, this share plan is a supplemental portion of the plan, which is similar to a 401k or a defined contribution plan, where each member has an account. And if there's money that is available pursuant to the agreement between the city and the union that goes into the share plan, then that money is basically divvied up or allocated to the various members' share accounts, and then it stays in the plan. It's not separated. It's invested with the rest of the assets, and then the members earn a return equal to the plan's return on their share accounts. And basically it builds up over the years. If there's any money goes in from year to year, you may not have any money go in depending on what the state money is in the agreement between the city and the union. So that's essentially what we're talking about here. So what we're doing is we're putting some bones, or we're putting some meat on the bones of the share plan to provide for an allocation method. Now the allocation method that we've provided for is an allocation method based on years of credited service. So obviously the more credited service you that you have with the department, the bigger piece of the share amount that you get. That allocation method, we inquired of the union as to what they wanted to use, and we got a written statement from the union saying that the union wants to use this based on years of credited service methodology, and that's what's in this ordinance. From the city's standpoint, you probably don't care that much because this ordinance doesn't increase the amount that's going into the plan. It just says if money is allocated to the share, that this is the way we're going to allocate it. So, in a nutshell, that's what we're doing today, and I'll answer any questions.
Great. Any comments, questions? This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to comment, please come to the podium, and you have 3 minutes. This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to come to the podium, you have 3 minutes. Last call.
Motion to close the public hearing.
There's been a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. I guess I need to say those opposed. And motion carries unanimously.
Make a motion to approve this
Okay.
ordinance.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve GA-10-2020. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries unanimously, and thank you for the explanation. That was very helpful. I think it's good for the residents to understand.
Absolutely.
We're just not flashing, we're just not, hurriedly passing through something.
Do I need to come back for second reading?
No, I don't believe so.
You're good
No,
then.
we're good to
All
go.
right. All right, thank you.
Thank
Good to
you.
see you all.
Thank you for being here.
Good seeing you.
Okay, we have no quasi judicial public hearings, no ordinances, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. Anyone wishing to pull anything from the consent agenda? No?
No, once again, thank you to the police department for coming up with another grant fund.
Yes.
And I would
Yes.
make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
There's been a motion in 2 seconds to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, we will move into the regular agenda, and we have a lot on the budget. So this is the Kristen show. And the first one is award of master agreement to Johnson Engineering. So Ann, all right.
Good morning, Ann Heinen Procurement. This is a master agreement to Johnson Engineering of Fort Myers, Florida for professional engineering services for the Taylor Road water main. The department requested procurement to issue a request for qualifications. The ESC committee ranked the top 3 firms. Procurement and the department went into negotiations with the top ranked firm, which is Johnson Engineering. There is no cost associated to the master agreement. This is specifically for this project. It will be for the design, the planning and permitting and construction services for this project. So staff does recommend the award of the master agreement to Johnson Engineering of Fort Myers, Florida, being the most qualified, responsive, and responsible bidder.
Questions?
Make a motion to approve the award of the master agreement to Johnson Engineering.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to award of master agreement to Johnson Engineering for professional engineer services for the Taylor Road water main. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. The second item is the award of specific authorization number 1 to the master agreement, which was previously approved by council, to, again, Johnson Engineering of Fort Myers, Florida. The specific authorization will be specifically for the design and permitting of the Taylor Road water main project. Total cost of the project will be $243,104. And the project for design and permitting will take approximately 420 days. Staff is recommending award of specific authorization number 1 to Johnson Engineering of Fort Myers, Florida.
Does that also require allocation of funds in this case?
No, it does not.
Okay.
There's already $250,000 budgeted in 2020 for the project.
I'll make a motion to approve the authorization to Johnson Engineering of Fort Myers, Florida for professional engineering services to design and permit the Taylor Road water main.
There's been a motion and a second to award specific authorization number 1 to Johnson Engineering, Inc. of Fort Myers, Florida for professional engineering services to design and permit the Taylor Road water main. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Debbie, do you have a question?
I do. I was asked by one of the members of my team about this. Do we have any idea how many more old infrastructure pipes like this we're going to be looking at replacing?
We have older pipes all over the city, especially in they're all over the city. So we have in our capital improvements program funds set aside to repair and replace older equipment as we go along. But it's going to be continual.
Okay, but there's no I think this person wanted to know
Exactly how many linear feet?
I don't
know if Mike
well,
would know yet. We have our GIS person on board I don't
Okay.
know if we actually have an actual number yet.
Okay, but it's going to be a long time.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
This one's 14,000 linear feet.
Yeah.
I asked that question
no,
the
yeah.
other day.
Okay, thanks.
This is a 75-year-old water line with old piping. It needs to go.
Yeah.
All right. Good question, thank you. So moving on to item C, Capital Improvement Program CIP update and additional sales tax project for consideration.
Good morning, Kristen Simeone. So we brought back to you an updated schedule of the possible way of funding the various projects over the years based on our allocation of funds for the sales tax extension request. So we had included the slide, and we had heard, wanting to move up the City Hall. Freeman House was also another priority. Again, some projects that were already in the works, the drainage program for the Boca Grande. So we tried to put a schedule again together with the available funds and the expenditures. So first we would like to understand if this particular schedule is what is more in line with what you were thinking originally.
Council members?
It is definitely more in line, subject to the one item we need to discuss today.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we'll discuss.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Debbie? Jaha?
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to the next project. So the additional project that's being suggested to be added into the request for the extension is the traffic signal at Birchsware Road and Home Depot. The estimated cost was approximately $1.1 million. And again, it's to enhance the traffic in that particular area, the Birchsware Isles Commercial Center, and reduce traffic in the residential neighborhood. A Charlotte County warrant study concluded that a signal met 3 out of 4 applicable warrant conditions. There were 5 conditions that weren't applicable for this particular project.
So we have 3 options that we'd like you to consider. One is not to include this project at all within our capital improvements program. Another option is to, if you decide to include it at the estimated cost, and you want to include it in our sales tax program of Tier 1 or Tier 2, you can do that. We need to do it today because we need to let Charlotte County know what our final revised list is going to be. But the amount of money that you put in the sales tax program to be voted on, whatever amount you want to put in there, we're going to have to take something out or reduce some other line item. Or the third option is you just put it in the unfunded category so it shows up under our capital program, our 5-year capital program, but still unfunded. At least our recommendation is if this is a project that we deem necessary in the future, we want to at least get it into our capital program in some manner.
John?
First, just a simple question, hopefully. If we were to put it in Tier 2, we'd still have to reduce something else in Tier 2. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay.
Based on our projections today.
Yeah.
And if you put it in Tier 2, I just wanted to point out too, you could do similar like what you did with some of the other projects, fund a portion of it and leave another portion unfunded, so it's still in the plan, and again, depending on how things go and other funding sources, you'd at least have it in the plan.
Debbie?
Well, I really hate to say this, but I do not think this should be in our sales tax options, and I will tell you why. We asked 20 citizens to sit through hours of deliberations on what was important and what we wanted, and we came up with a list. And they were okay with the fact that, the ones that I've heard from, and I've tried to stay in contact with as many of them as I could because I wanted this feedback. Because a lot of them were also on the city manager's stakeholder meeting, and felt that they had an entirely wasted day because of the way it was handled at the end of, our ratings and all of that. I think to move anything further down the list or off the list would be a real insult to those people and their time and their talents and the amount of work they put into coming up with this list. I'm not saying I don't think this is a worthwhile project, because you guys have been waiting for it for years, and obviously you think it's necessary. But I object to manipulating the sales tax to get this funded.
Jahan?
I think it should go on the unfunded list, but be a priority in terms of looking for grant funding to pay for it. I think it should be something we really think important, but I agree with Debbie that I don't think it should go on the sales tax list.
Lynn?
I definitely think it needs to be on the list, and my suggestion would be that we could put the sidewalk connection on West Marion on the unfunded list, because that was one of the items that we chose as a council that was on an unfunded list originally from the committee. And that, to me, would be an easy replacement, because that still could happen if the sales tax revenue comes in at a higher level than we anticipate from Tier 1 and Tier 2. So it still could happen. That maybe should be priority number 1 on the unfunded list, but at least that would get the traffic light on the at least partially funded list. I feel very strongly about this. You guys know I've been working on this for a while. I know Nancy did as well. And I think it's extremely critical for public safety reasons. It's a brand new thing that just happened that we found out there was an opportunity to add it to the list. So it was me that asked Howard to do this. And I do think it's extremely important for all the public safety reasons for Burnt Store Isles residents. And since there is no apparent inclination on the part of the county or FDOT to help fund it at this point, we've got to find a way to get it funded and get it done. That's my opinion on it.
So what you were saying is, I can't remember, the sidewalk connections West Marion, Bal Harbor to Shreve, that's the second from the bottom.
Correct.
It was not a project that was evaluated by the committee.
No.
And you agree with that, Debbie?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would.
So,
at least it would get it on the list as a partially funded project in
do
Tier 2.
we want to partially fund both of those?
Well, we can't, because there's only $345,000 budgeted right now. The rest of it's unfunded.
But you don't have to fund it at 345. You could fund it at 100 and leave 100 or 245 on the other one if you wanted to.
I think that's better. Basically, this is going to be a placeholder anyway to make sure it has funding, but I wouldn't take the sidewalk project off.
Yes. So you do have the opportunity to leave both on, so that both projects are in the list. Again, as we get closer to the again, since it was Tier 2, it'd be more in the outer years at the moment. You could prioritize when we get towards that time, which you would want to do first. And, and again, if we start receiving additional funds over and above the projections, then you can.
We could do that and then look for grant funds or some other way to help subsidize.
Yeah, the feedback I received was really not supporting it as a sales tax project. And I think basically agreeing with what Debbie said and focusing on the key priorities that we have, that we've all talked about, didn't want to see us taking anything away from these key projects that we've supported and putting it on the unfunded list. But if we were going to just put it unfunded Tier 2 with a small amount so that it's a placeholder, I think that probably that would be an acceptable alternative. So that's a good suggestion. What do you think about that?
I want to see it on the funded list somehow or some way, at least partially funded.
Well, I think if we put it on, you're talking about Tier 2 here anyway, so if you put 50 or 100,000 on it and then left the rest on the street project, you'd accomplish both those things.
Would you feel comfortable with that, Debbie?
suppose.
Well, and I totally agree with what you said, and totally agree with the effort that the residents, our community group, put into this. Totally. And the feedback I received was, had they probably if we had the historic preservation information during the evaluation process, they probably would have ranked it much higher. So they just didn't. Nobody had it, so it was information they couldn't have.
Well, and if I remember our conversation about the West Marion sidewalks, that was like the most nebulous project out there. It was like, well, we don't know if we can get the land. We don't know what the wastewater, reallocation, whatever that's called.
Drainage, the drainage.
Drainage. We don't know this, we don't know that, and so they just threw a number at us.
Are you saying you should take it off and put this on?
No, I'm just saying, I think to give it, I think we need to decide whether it's really something we want to do as opposed to the traffic signal.
Oh, so you're suggesting the sidewalk connections project may not be something we even want on this list?
That's what I'm suggesting. I think that,
Would we move that to the unfunded list?
Isn't it there now? Tier 2 unfunded?
Well, no, there is another list coming. There's
Oh.
another list on a
There's a
subsequent
separate
slide.
list. Okay.
That are projects that are just totally unfunded.
Okay.
Yeah, so can I remind you all, really all of these projects are unfunded because they're assuming
Right.
a possibility of an election that's in November, so we won't know until that point in time, whether these will be funded projects. But this is what we expect a plan would look like if that happens.
But the difference is this slide, these are the projects that the electorate would vote on to approve, whereas the slide, and you haven't gotten there yet, on a list of projects that we have that aren't on the local option, at least we feel that we can use local option sales tax to support these projects because they are on this list. Whereas the other list.
Right, if they don't make the list, we will probably not put any we wouldn't put any sales tax money towards that at this time.
Again, I can only go by the comments that I get, and what they're saying to me is that if somebody else paid for that traffic light, that would be a wonderful thing to have. But if we have to come up with the money at the expense of doing something with City Hall or any of the things that we think are really important, they would just as soon not.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree with that either.
I think Lynn has a different view of the public safety effort. I have people say to me, why don't we just make Home Depot move their sign? If their sign was back 3 feet, we could see what we're doing. Well, obviously we can't make them do that.
But it's not the sign. It's not their sign. It has nothing to do with the sign.
I realize that, but that's what people are saying.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, I did not get any, gosh, yes, let's do that.
The feedback I got was put it on the unfunded list. Not the sales tax unfunded, but that other list. If you can you advance to that list? This one. The feedback I got was just put it on this list, but it's totally unfunded projects.
But then where does this come in?
For
Like
sales
if we
tax?
decide we want to do it, do we have to come up with the
With
money?
sales tax, it wouldn't be, we couldn't use sales tax money for it. So if the economy started roaring and we got all these sales tax dollars because it wasn't on the list, we couldn't use sales tax dollars for it. Technically we could, because city council can always make that decision, but it's, as Howard has discouraged us from doing that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, then you run into the same thing as I'm facing with the sales tax committee being totally ignored, so the public is being ignored on what they voted on.
And the feedback I've received is nobody wanted us to do anything with the priorities.
Me too.
So if there was that one project, though, that we added that
Right.
wasn't part of their evaluation, then
Which is why I'm saying I would be in favor of just moving that to the unfunded list and putting the Lynn's traffic signal in as a tier 2, because we don't know. The money might, we may rebound great guns and be able to do it.
Okay.
What I'm hearing is there is some movement up here to eliminate, move the sidewalk connection West Marion, Bell Harbor to Shreve to the totally unfunded list and replace that with the Burnt Store, the traffic signal at Burnt Store Road and Home Depot, but it'd be totally Tier 2, $345,000 in Tier 2, and the rest of that unfunded. That's what I think I'm hearing. And you can do that by motion, if that's what I'm hearing. Somebody can make a motion and we can get that done.
I would make a motion that we take the line item sidewalk connections West Marion, Bell Harbor to Shreve and move it to an unfunded project list and then replace it with the traffic light at Burnt Store Road and Home Depot.
I'd second that.
To a Tier 2.
To Tier 2, I apologize, yes.
Okay, so there's been a motion and a second to replace the sidewalk connections at West Marion, Bell Harbor to Shreve with the Home Depot, the traffic light at Home Depot, to Tier 2 unfunded on the local option sales tax list. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, the motion carries unanimously. So we will move that sidewalk connections to the totally unfunded list then.
We'll go on to this list.
Okay.
So this is the list, just taking off the few items that you had discussed, but we just wanted to bring it back to you.
The important thing is that these will show up in a capital program, but unfunded.
So if we were things were just wild and we had all this sales tax dollars and we got through the whole entire list.
Again, the sales tax program, if you're going to add a project that's not on the sales tax list, it has to be related to that category. It has to be within that category.
Well, we have a number here that are kind of in that category. We do.
Yeah, we did. Like we took Lashley Park, some dollars set aside in Lashley Park, and rearranged that it should go to Veterans Park, which is Lashley Park. It was legitimate. We just have to be careful on how we do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Are we good? Good. Okay. So now we can move on to the item D.
I am going to, okay, so now we're going to talk about the general fund update. And the slides that were provided originally in the agenda item were based on the June 1 value. I've updated all the slides based on the July 1 value that we received yesterday from the county. You'll see that on these slides, any slide that had an update shows that it was updated so that we could discuss it. So the first thing we want to talk about are, well, what have some of the changes been since our May 6th meeting? So again, we have reduced some of our revenue projections, but again, it's still very volatile. We're still trying to, no one knows where some of these revenues are really going to end up. The state projections that the municipalities use have not been sent yet. They usually come out in mid-July for us to view what the state thinks. However, they're probably delaying theirs. Everyone's in the same boat, like asking each other, well, what are you doing and what are you doing? And a lot of them just don't know right now because it's very up in the air about, because again, we're budgeting for a whole nother year away. So we did take some additional reductions in revenues just to be a little more conservative. So communications tax was about a 0.5% reduction, state revenue sharing 8.4%. Half-cent sales tax was 17.2%. Interest revenue, we originally used a 1% because we'd been getting about 2.5%, and it had gone down, but it's gone down even further. So that's about 50% reduction there. And the electric franchise fee of 4%. So you can see the total of the reduced revenue for fiscal year 21 is $443,000. As we talked about administrative charges, originally in our May 6th, we were using a 1% interest 1% increase overall. Now that all the funds have been updated, we were able to spread that based on the expenditures of each of the funds. So that increased the admin charges slightly. So some went down, some went up, depending on the changes in each particular fund. So that was a 1.6% increase overall for the general fund. So the net effect on reserves would be a decrease of $394,000. Since that time, we did get our health insurance rates, which came in at a 1.5% increase rather than the estimated 6% increase. So for the general fund, that's $101,000 of savings on expenditures. So the net effect on reserves is a positive $101,000. This one is a net effect of 0 in fiscal year 2021. It's in our 2020 plan. We're just moving it out to match the PGI, which we'll be going over a little bit later. But again, it's for the Hurricane Irma, the RIP-RAP mitigation project. So the loan draw increase is offset by the transfer to the PGI maintenance. So here's the information on July 1 appraisers' estimates. So using the estimated values, the ad valorem, I should have changed this, should have been a little bit of, on the June 1 number, it was a decrease. I updated the number, but I should have said an increase now versus a decrease at estimated rollback of 3.3469. So you have an increase of $42,000 in our estimate for ad valorem. So taxable value was lower than what was projected on May 6th. New construction was also lower. The new construction was a little bit lower for the July 1, but because of the rounding just to the millions, you don't see that change.
Kristen, real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the stuff that's on our agenda package online is not the July 1 numbers. That
Correct.
probably needs to be updated for people who may be following it at home.
Yes, we can add that to our agenda. I don't know how quickly we can change that out. The CRA tax increment transfer increase, again, we kind of talked about this later, but again, that because the valuation went up above our projection, that means a higher transfer over to CRA, so that's a negative overall towards reserves because we have to transfer a little bit more on the expenditure side. So the net effect on reserves is a almost $14,000 decrease. So this is just a comparison of taxable values, and kind of tried to show you again 2007 when we were at the height of our building and where we're at for fiscal year 2021. So our July 1 number came in almost $3.5 million, which is a 4.6% increase over the prior year. A little lower than the increases we've been seeing over the past few years. So again, we're just showing you where our revenues are at, from May 6th to our new July 1st estimates. The note on there is the big increase in revenues and expenditures is that amount that has the 8.2 million, which has a net effect of 0. So all the other changes overall have causes us to have a gap of 307,000 since the May projections. And again, we try to show you also how these projections affect our following year's projections, so fiscal year 2022. So back in May, we talked about using operating reserves for fiscal year 2022 of $601,000. So not increasing that at the moment just shows you where our budget gaps are for fiscal year 2022. So this slide, we like to talk about our operating reserves and where we're at. So we currently estimate the ending reserves are at approximately $5.8 million. So this was a little bit of a $200,000 decrease, again, decreasing a little bit of revenue projection in fiscal year 2020. We have our capital outlay reserve, which is planned to be used in the following year, so of $733,000. And then the use of operating reserves that were approved during our May meeting to help balance our budget was $471,000. Then, of course, we have our minimum ending reserve, which for fiscal year 2021 was approved to be at 9%. This also includes $120,000 of savings last year, so it's really 9% and a little bit more. That was from that health insurance savings. So the estimated ending reserves available for allocation would be approximately $2.3 million. So looking at it, if you were possibly going to use some of that for to cover the new shortfall, that would be using an additional $307,000. So that would mean at the end of fiscal year 2021, you'd have about $2 million in available reserves. And again, we try and look that one extra year ahead. So starting with our ending fiscal year 2021, in fiscal year 2022, to increase our ending reserve to the 9.5%, which is that extra 0.5%, would be $132,000. And then if you were to add the additional $305,000 that would be needed to cover the shortfall in fiscal year 2022, that would be $906,000. So then your possible ending reserves that would be available for allocation are approximately $971,000. So again, this is just a look. This is not what is definitely going to happen, because those will be based on decisions made regarding millage. And I did update this slide. I should have updated the little title. I'm so sorry. This is now as of 7/1. I did change it in the title on the right, but I missed the one at the top. So based on current millage rate, you can see what the ad valorem would generate there at almost 11.5 million. Using the rollback rate of 3.3469, you have 11 million, almost 200,000 there. And we'd like to show you basically the main programs that the city has. This doesn't include like our regular admins, such as city managers, procurement, anything like that. But you can see that paving program, drainage program, police operating, fire operating, and public works operating. If you were just looking at those, what kind of millage rate each of those departments would have. So you can see that our ad valorem, or our current millage rate, doesn't even cover our full regular programs of these main functions. So to begin our millage rate discussion, we have our rollback rate of 3.3469, and we have our current rate of 3.4337, which we've already discussed what that would generate. And a third millage rate option is the estimated rate to cover the gap. So that would be 3.4389. So it's a slight increase from the current rate. So some options to fund that gap would be maintain the millage rate at the current rate or higher. Use of reserves. You could possibly reduce the drainage program, could reduce some of the paving program, or reduce city services. Again, we started our whole plan based on what we had heard from council during our long-range financial plan discussions, trying to use a rollback rate. So we used the rollback millage rate. We had lowered revenue projections already, and again, we're lowering some additional. Most operating expenditures were flat, and the overall increase in personnel was approximately 2%. Due to the uncertainty of economic outlook over the next 18 months, revenue projections were reduced further. So at this time, staff recommends a millage rate of at least the current millage rate of 3.4337. And just as an information, we included what a 0.1 mils would generate based on the July 1 county appraiser's estimated taxable value. And then we provide a slide just to give you a couple scenarios of a $150,000 value home or a $300,000 value home. These are homesteaded residents. So homestead has a cap of 2.3% increase based on the consumer price index. So even if their value might have been higher, it's capped at 2.3%. So you can see how maintaining our current millage, using the rollback rate, or the rate for to cover the entire gap, how that would affect these types of homes. Any questions?
Now, we're not asking you to vote on a millage rate today. Next Wednesday, July 8th, at the council meeting, you will be asked to vote on a proposed millage rate for advertising purposes. You can go lower in September when we have the budget public hearings. You pretty much can't go higher. There's a technicality where you could go higher, but with all of the regulations, state mandates on how to go higher after that, you can't go higher. So that's why we recommend, for advertising purposes and the uncertainty of the economy, that you at least propose the current millage rate. The advantage we've had during this whole process is that we put together a budget based on the rollback rate. But the economy didn't help us.
It was an optimistic effort.
Well, I think it was a good effort to really look at needs versus wants and being prudent at this point in time. And who knew when we made that decision that we would have this pandemic upon us? So there's a $17,000 gap in the budget. So
There's more than that.
no,
300.
not really.
300.
305.
Between the rollback rate, but not between the 3.3.
Oh, the current mill.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah, sorry.
$17,000 gap between the current millage rate and what it would.
To
I mean,
cover the gap.
17,000 is like.
I do want to mention one other thing. There is a little portion, and again, it's the CRA transfer, because their percentage is a little bit higher as far as the taxable value. Regardless of what rate you all decide on, that little portion is going to be covered by reserves, because you can increase it, but that just increases the difference that goes over to the CRA. So that little portion, regardless of which decision, will come from reserves.
So I guess we're looking for not a formal, we're not taking any formal votes, some direction. So can we, because we need to put the agenda goes out tomorrow. So we need to have some idea. We know what we would like to do.
So who would like to?
I would like to have a discussion about going to the next step up and actually covering the full gap. If there's anything we have heard consistently, it's our reserves, and yet, we just seem to tap into it because we're afraid to face the fact that our millage rate is just too low. And I don't see that going from $860 to $883 is going to make anybody have to move out. And at least with that, we've covered our gap.
So that's the 3.4389.
Yes, the 8.9, which is just,
Just a comment here too. We aren't really dipping into our required reserves to just maintain the current millage rate. We actually have an excess over that requirement now of $970,000. So the difference could be taken out of that, and we haven't hurt anything in terms of the required millage or required reserves that we have to maintain.
I thought we were trying to get to 16%, and we're a long way from that if we keep.
Well, if this 971,000 is real, and it is, or as real as it gets, that gets us very close to 16% if we put it all in that and say that it's going to be our reserve for that the required amount.
I'd like to point out just a couple other things regarding our reserves and some of the reasons why we may not want to use reserves to cover the gap at this point or anything like that. Is, again, we have the election for the 1% sales tax still pending. So again, if we have projects that we're going to want to move forward and that doesn't pass, we're going to possibly need those reserves to fund some of these projects. Also, again, there's still more uncertainty. Again, we don't have a crystal ball. So, we're doing the best we can with the economists are all over the board with what they're predicting. I mean, they're not even, you've got two ends of the spectrum of what could possibly happen in the long term. So it's just, a lot of uncertainty and maybe a reason why you want to hold on to those reserves for other things that might come along.
I would like to see us keep the millage rate the same as last year. Last year, everybody took a serious hit. We had our millage rate increase. We had the Buckley's Pass assessment for several people. We had the 1 mil increase for the school tax, and the county increased their taxes. And that was a huge, huge hit. For me personally, for my house I live in, it was an additional $1,400 a year for taxes last year for my house. I would really like to see us keep it the same and do the very best we can with it and hope that somehow, some way the economy is going to start rebounding a little bit. But in this uncertain economy, I have a real problem telling people we're going to charge them more tax right now. I just do.
I'd like to stay at the current millage rate.
I hear what you're saying, Debbie. Increasing our reserves and getting us to that 16.7% is really important. In this case, just looking at the new numbers, we're talking $17,000. If we were talking $337,000, then, as we were previously, that was I think the number was even higher. Maybe it was only 36,000, I think, before.
Yeah, it was
36,000. But if we were talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, then it would be different. But $17,000 out of a big number, we still have a huge amount that we can use for projects. And I hear what you're saying as well, Kristen, about all these projects. But there's no way that we are going to be able to fund all the projects that are on the local option sales tax list with whatever we have.
No, we would be looking at. Again, we've talked about that before, like what would our options be for the CIP?
So I think that for us, given this year what everybody's been through, I would like to see us just maintain that millage rate to the same one.
And keep in mind that we are giving all the members of BSI and PGI a cut in their canal assessments this year. That's got to
Well, yes, but that's a whole different story. We're not giving anybody anything. They, as a community, have paid off a debt in BSI, and
same in PGI.
And the same in PGI, they've paid off a debt, and so.
But it shows up. That was semantics, and I used the wrong word, and I apologize.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Well, then you should have corrected me. But what I'm saying is that it's going to that's going to show up on the tax statement, that they do get that money back. I mean, believe me, when it was assessed, we were blamed for it. So I'm just saying, I just wanted to have a discussion. I knew that it wouldn't go anywhere because it never does, but I just felt like I had to throw it out there.
I'm glad you did. Absolutely.
I respect what you had to say. I just would like to see us try to do whatever we can to keep people status quo.
So you want to roll it back?
Not the rollback, but the current.
Okay.
John?
Okay, we don't know what's going to happen in the next months. When do we finally have to decide on the millage rate?
September,
okay. If, according to what Howard said, is we can always, we can't go up in a millage rate. We always can go down.
Right.
So there might be some utility at the moment to go with the slightly higher millage rate, which is going to give us an option. We'll know more information in a month or two. Whether we really need to go to it or not, we can come back. I agree we shouldn't go up, but this will give us some leeway to make a more informed decision in another couple months.
So what are you proposing?
I'm proposing that we do fill the gap with the millage rate increase, slight increase at this time. We're not voting on it, we're just suggesting that so that we have that as a sort of a planning tool to hopefully in a couple of months we'll say, oh, the numbers have gotten better, or gee, they even got worse. But it gives us a little bit more leeway, wiggle room, so to speak. And if we don't need it, great. If we do need it, we at least can get that. But if we really do need it, then it'll be very clear that we need it. And so we'll be there and we'll have it.
I'm not in favor. I mean, I'll just say, if we want to say you need a consensus, I'm in favor of retaining the current millage rate.
Yep, that's where I am.
Okay, so, again, you're not voting on anything. We will prepare an agenda item for next week. It looks like what I saw, based on the current millage rate. And then next week on July 8th, you can discuss it some more and see what your final decision is going to be.
I will have to say, given, just thinking about, I think what Debbie has said, and thinking about last year we had numerous decisions. It was obvious we were not going to be able to use reserves to achieve what we really needed to achieve. And we were all in agreement that we needed to raise the millage rate.
We had a lot of personnel increases on last year.
A lot of personnel increases and things like that. We could have made those same decisions this year as well, but we chose not to because of the environment that we're in. So,
I'm fine. I just wanted a discussion.
yeah, no.
Well, we're not done because we're going to do it again next week.
We get to do it again.
Now we get to think about it.
Yeah, there we go.
I'll share
And you made valid points. I mean, I think everybody, that's why we have the conversation. But
We do.
I'm just real concerned about trying to stab people in the heart one more time. I really would like to see us do whatever we can to keep it the same.
See, this is so weird because the consensus of people I talk to, unsolicited, is you guys are running a business and it costs more money every year to run a business. My manicurist said my hairspray went up $3. I have to start charging more. How come you guys never raise the city's taxes? Well, this is why.
But we did last year.
I know, we did,
Yeah.
but it was such a small amount that, the city part of it, I'm sorry, did not hurt anybody, I don't think, really, once they got down to it. We did get inundated with other taxes. But, I hear, we love it here, we're willing to pay for what we get and, charge us. That's what I hear. So I'm just passing it along.
Yeah, and I hear you, and I agree with you. I'm seeing this gap of $17,000, and I'm saying it's just $17,000. I mean, I don't want to diminish that. It's $17,000 is a big number to some, but in our whole budget, $17,000 is it's just.
And that could be made up between now and September anyway.
And it could triple between now and
It could. Yeah,
Anything can happen. You got it. Okay.
And
I mean, that's why I said what I said, but I agree we don't want to really increase the millage rate.
Yeah.
Don't have to.
So we will see what we get next week then. It's our last opportunity.
Okay, so the next item is also a budget item regarding gas taxes. So, again, these funds have been seeing a decrease in the revenue. So we have budgeted lower revenues for the gas taxes. So we're going to start out with the additional 5-cent gas tax fund. So here's just the proposed, showing total revenues, total expenditures, beginning and ending reserves. So this is the fund where we do our paving from. So we have Gas taxes at approximately $246,000 for fiscal year '21. That's an estimated reduction of 7.5% overall. So again, we've seen a higher reduction in the current months. The first month of reductions was kind of all over the board with the taxes, and I think that was that half month of shutdown. This past month, we just saw a larger decrease. They were anywhere from 20 to 29% decreases. However, we think that's the full month. Things are starting to open back up. And again, we're trying to project a whole year for next year. So we've estimated that reduction about 7.5% decrease. So the paving program is reduced slightly based on that. It is balanced with the general fund ad valorem of $459,000. It's our little graphic just to kind of show the two different funding sources. We included in the packet the paving plan, so that was available online. And again, those are preliminary and are subject to change based on needs or any other things like that. So then going into our 6-cent gas tax fund, this one has several funding sources besides the gas tax. We've got some FDOT funds for signal maintenance. We've got the sweeping program, things like that. So our total revenues, again, are seeing a decrease, and total expenditures, again, remaining pretty much flat. You see that the beginning and ending operating reserves, so currently through fiscal year 2025, we are balanced. Again, this is doing another 7.5% overall decrease in that estimate for gas taxes. The other revenues are by contracts, so they've been put in based on the contract amounts. And again, we're balancing with the use of reserves at this time. Any questions on that?
Questions? Comments?
Okay.
Okay. So next item we will need to we'd be going into the canal assessment. I have a question. We have some people that are from the Pickleplex are here, and they're out in the lobby. Would it be possible that we could have that item, discuss that item since they're here, and bring that up? Then we can adjourn after that? Okay.
They here? They're outside with reporters.
Oh,
They're coming.
okay.
We're in good shape. They can
We're
come
what?
on in.
We're good?
Yeah, they can come on in.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So we are going to move the item on the a discussion of Pickleplex decision to establish memberships up. It is new business. Howard, I'll let you.
We received information that Pickleplex is talking about putting together an annual membership. You saw what the numbers were in some of the comments that were read into the record. The city has contributed about up to about $65,000 towards a court and utility work. Pickleplex is wholly on their own. They constructed it, they operate it, they manage it, they maintain it. They have been hit, like a lot of other places, with the lack of ability to have tournaments and events. They're run like a business, so they have to maintain what they have. So the issues are, first of all, council cannot dictate to Pickleplex what to do. You can certainly discuss it and make recommendations, but I need to point some things out. Charging of memberships for recreational play, charging of fees for recreational play, it's not uncommon. It happens all across the country. Charlotte County charges for play at their public facilities. When you go swim at the pool, you pay a fee. And that's not uncommon. We could, as a city, if we chose to, and we don't yet, we don't charge for our facilities. We don't even charge in our parking garage. That's not common, but that's how we've done things. And the people enjoy it. So the question is, do you want to comment on or make any recommendations regarding Pickleplex? Will there be more play at Gilchrist Park if people choose not to pay a fee? Maybe. There's not much play right now. Of course, it's hot. We are going to get quotes tomorrow on repairing or resurfacing the courts at Gilchrist Park. They are starting to develop some cracks, and they're a little worn. So we did the same with the tennis courts, but we're going to take care of that. But Pickleplex has not received any money other than the amount that they got from the city to construct any further or maintain. They're on their own. They will leave some courts open for play, as you heard. We have some representatives here to talk about it. So it's in front of you if you want to discuss what your thoughts are. They're here to answer any questions. So that kind of frames the conversation.
Debbie?
I would just like to say to those of you that are here from Pickleplex that I don't understand why this was even necessary. As far as I'm concerned, you are a 501c3. The money, I went back and tried to find in the minutes where the money for the court was given to you, and there were no strings attached to that. It was a donation, and one of our council members stressed over and over again that there was going to be a return on investment, and that's why he felt it was a good fit. And I believe that there has been a return on our investment. I think your first year of tournaments proved that your business plan was solid. Every nonprofit in the city has suffered similarly. Some of our, the ones that I personally am closest and dearest to are all suffering because, expenses went up and there was no activity. And they're looking at raising fees, and they don't have to come to us. So as far as I'm concerned, you guys put together a business plan that could never in a million years have anticipated that we were going to end up in a 3-month total shutdown with all your tournaments canceled for the rest of the year. I think you're doing a great job. I continue to support you. The city can't give you any money. You've heard our budget discussions. We don't have any to give you. But as far as if you want to have memberships, that's your business's business. That has nothing to do with the city as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
John?
I think Debbie said it very well. I don't need to repeat it. It is a business. You have a right to deal with that business as you see fit to make it work. And I'm amazed that you don't already do it. I'm a tennis player mainly, and I pay a lot more than that a year to play at a tennis facility. And even at the Y, you pay that much for tennis if you don't have all the cutbacks from Medicare or whatever else. So it's not unusual at all that you're doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Lynn?
I've always supported Pickleplex from the very beginning. I was a very strong supporter of both the Gilchrist courts as well as Pickleplex since I've been on this council. I have heard from a number of residents, and I mean a number of residents, that they're very unhappy that the Pickleplex will charge for the city's court when the city does not charge for the use of our own courts. And that is the real sticking point for me, that the court that the city paid for with taxpayer dollars is going to be now a charge for use court. So that was the biggest issue that came up with the people that I've talked to. And secondly, there's a huge concern that Gilchrist Park is going to be once again inundated with players who do not want to pay the fee, and they're going to be coming back into Gilchrist Park, and we're going to start the entire resurgence of negativity about that from the residents downtown. So those are my two concerns. I respect everything you guys are doing. I respect that you think you have to charge a fee, and that's, as Debbie said, it's your business decision. But I would ask that you consider keeping the city's court out there free of charge for play at all times, based on all the comments that I've had feedback from. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I definitely believe that you'll have to stay viable. And to be honest, the reason why we don't have a Parks and Rec budget is because we don't, unlike the county, charge for things. But that's a different conversation. I think as long as we have things in place to ensure that Gilchrist is not inundated, I think it's wholly reasonable that modest fees are charged for this. I think it has to be maintained. I mean, that's what the county does with its parks. This is not an outlandish amount to pay. But again, I do think that we do need to understand if there are consequences that the residents who live near Gilchrist Park should not suffer in this regard as well.
So I am a liaison from the city to the Pickleplex, and I know people think that I am on the board. I go to all the board meetings, so if anything, I may be like ex officio to them, but I'm not on their board. I don't vote. I do participate in the discussions at the meetings as an advisor, but that's it. And my husband and I have contributed to the Pickleplex. And we sponsored a court ourselves because we thought it was the right thing to do for the community. I understand that Pickleplex has talked about it. We could take one court and we could leave one court open for play at all times. And that's it. And there'd be one court. And we would probably have people lined up to play for free on that one court. But some of the things that have driven this decision from the Pickleplex is, yeah, it's the financial, but it's also the community. And there are people that treat this facility like it was some free park somewhere. They don't close the gate doors. They don't take care of it. They leave their trash around. I mean, it's like people are picking up after them. This is a privately run facility. And when people have an investment in it, I think they take better care of it. And we've had, in the consideration for charging, the discussion is not included an additional fee for people coming from outside the county. But that's a possibility because the Pickleplex is seeing people coming from a lot of other places. But this is a first step. And I think that it's really to encourage people to take care of this facility. And there are people that take pride in this facility. And I don't look as, my husband and I, we have a sign on court number 5. I don't look at that as my court. We just supported the Pickleplex. And that having courts, there will be 16 courts available for 5 hours. Yes, it's the heat of the day, but there is peak play, and in order to manage peak play, this is what is the best thing, the best alternative. So there'll be 16 courts available for 5 hours a day, 7 days a week, unless there's a tournament. And we don't know about that, but we're hoping. So I fully support them in this. I have participated in these discussions with the board members, and they have been discussing this for a long time and really have given this really serious consideration and how they would do it and how they would accommodate drop-ins so that nobody has to feel like one email we got was somebody said, I play once a month. I don't want to pay $200 to play once a month. Well, you don't have to. You can pay a $5 drop-in fee, and unless you want to play from noon to 5. And in the wintertime, noon to 5 is really not bad. So, Debbie?
Did we, as a city, buy a court, or did we make a donation that enabled them to build a court?
We made a donation to name a court, the city of Punta Gorda, but it's not our court per se, but we did pay for the cost of one court.
No strings attached, is that correct?
With you're correct, with the city's name, like the city donated the money for construction of a court.
And in reality, Howard, that $20,000 didn't begin to cover the cost of what if we would have, in looking back in retrospect, and we add up all of what it's cost to put the Pickleplex in place, we should have charged a lot more than that. But we didn't. So it was a donation.
That was the number we had at the time.
Right. It's what we thought.
But it was a donation. I want that
Right.
clear. We
Right.
didn't
It
buy
was
a
a-
court.
no.
We made a donation.
But we did so with the understanding that it would alleviate the pressure on Gilchrist as well.
Yes,
That
we
was
did.
the motivation behind
Yeah.
it. So it wasn't.
Right.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
We did.
absolutely. Yeah. So, and I know that the Pickleplex is committed to maintaining free play for students, and making it reasonable. And they've done a lot of actually fact-finding with people. What do you think about this idea? And the response has been very, very supportive. You know, I get it. There's some people that aren't happy. The one lady who we sent an email from, I believe, is it her daughter that started this, and the daughter lives in Cape Coral. So it's, you know, anyway. Lynn?
Well, personally speaking, if I were on the board, I would definitely consider a different fee structure for people outside of the county. I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. Because right now, you're getting a lot of people from outside of the county playing on those courts. And it would only make sense that people that live in the community here and in Charlotte County get some kind of a benefit for having the facility here. That would just be my personal choice. I just don't want to see some of the negative comments that have been thrown around, like they need to pay us back the $65,000 we've already given them if they're going to start charging, or, you know, what are we going to do about the courts in Gilchrist Park that are falling apart and they're a safety hazard? I've talked to several people who play at the Gilchrist Park courts, and they're not in that bad of disrepair. They do need to be resurfaced, and we're addressing that. But is it a safety concern? No, it is not. At the same time, I agree with Jaha. I don't think that we want to see a massive influx of people going to our Gilchrist courts because they don't want to pay the fee out there. So at some point, maybe we have to talk about charging a fee at our Gilchrist courts for the Punta Gorda residents. I don't know. That may be another discussion for another day, but those are all comments that I've been hearing, and I felt it was important that we have a discussion about it today, just to put everything out on the table. And you guys as a board, you have to decide how you're going to go forward, but I just want to get this put to bed once and for all, and if there's any way that we can keep one court out there free of charge at all times, that would make the people in Punta Gorda happy, since their tax dollars paid for the donation to the project, and that's really the bottom line for what I've heard from a lot of people.
Yeah. I guess I'd look at it. They don't own that court.
I understand that.
I understand it's
It's perception.
It's the perception and the sentiment. So what I'm expressing is that the Pickleplex board is offering a lot more court time than one court at all times in reality. So
let me also throw one more thing out on the table, since we're having this subject. I challenge the county commissioners to jump right in here anytime and support this project. It is in the county, it's not in the city, just remember that.
Right.
We are not stepchildren because we're on this side of the bridge. This is Charlotte County overall, and I really think that they need to get invested in this project once and for all. We've been dragging our feet on this for almost 3 years, 4 years. It's time. It's time to get their support.
thank you. Thank you. Any other comments? Would anyone from Pickleplex like to make a comment? Yeah, sure. That'd be great, Gloria.
I just want to say thank you for all of your comments and your consideration, and we appreciate the support that you have given us over the years. And you understand, none of us wanted to have to charge a membership fee. This is only because we need to keep the facility as a first-class facility and maintained so that hopefully when the pandemic is over, we can just go back to hosting those nice big tournaments to bring in the economic impact to the community again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I really want to say thank you to the dedication, well, for the years of dedication to the Pickleplex Board and what you've done in creating this facility that's really bringing it's a great facility, you know, as far as recreational and economic benefit. It's a premier facility, so thank you.
And thank you for all your comments, and we will take those under consideration.
Gloria, I had one more question I just noticed on my notes. One of my team asked me to ask, if the pandemic ends and tournaments take off and you're making, you know, your money again, will this go away, or do you foresee that this will be a permanent thing?
That's a good question, because that's something we have been discussing as well.
Okay.
Several of the people who play out there have felt that we should have done this from the beginning
Okay.
because of some of the abuse that we have seen. You know, we have some people who just think that they don't have to take care of things.
Gloria, can I add something? Can I add something? to
Sure,
that?
Gary.
Sure, Gary.
Gary Wilson, I'm on the board of directors. One of the problems with raising our revenue through tournaments is when we have a tournament, we have to close the courts.
Oh, okay.
So there's a balance there of how many tournaments we can have to bring in revenue and take the courts away from the people. So that's where we have to be careful with that.
Which is why the extra courts would have been really nice.
That's why the extra courts will be really nice.
Will be.
Okay.
Yes, will be nice, yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, no, they're really, you know, working hard on that, so. Any other comments? Thank you. Thank you very much for being here, and good discussion. I'm glad we were able to put these things out there so that we can help clear it up.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yes,
guys.
you're welcome.
Can I make a suggestion that we break for a recess for lunch, because Audio Pro is here to see if they can fix the audio?
Okay, so how long do you want us to break for?
I know.
How long do you think?
How long?
I don't know, they're here and waiting.
How long would you like for us to break for?
I would say